Hello there, this is Agri Talk, and today we'll be talking about coffee production in the country and from around the globe. This is International Coffee World Day, and today we are at Connect Coffee right here in the capital, Nairobi. Now we're going to just come in and look at what they're doing. What do we exactly mean?
I think coffee roasting, that's the stage where the coffee bean is transformed to being something that is consumable and edible to the end user. So coffee as we know it is converted to that form through a roasting process, which allows it to manifest good flavor, good aroma, and the scent that always attracts you to a coffee shop. So that's the product of coffee roasting.
And now, while we are still even looking at roasting,
Yes.
are there types of roasting that give out different result of the coffee bean, or what would you say about the types of roasting that we have?
I think coffee roasting is what differentiates different coffee retailers and different coffee resellers, sorry, because it's at the profiling that you decide what distinct coffee taste your crop or your produce is going to have as you've received it. So some people want to have a very unique roasting profile. For example, Starbucks, they are known to have a secret profile on how they roast their coffee. At Connect, we also have our profiles on how we roast the coffee. So that's where the taste of the coffee is determined.
Ah, all right. And even as we look at now the tasting and the different flavors,
Yeah.
when it comes to the process of roasting, what is the main important thing that you need to look at in order to come up with a good result?
Most importantly, you need good quality coffee, and that's where sourcing the coffee comes in. So as you source the coffee, you have to sort it first and see that it's a good crop that you're having, because ultimately, if you don't have a good crop, however your methods are, you will not get good coffee. So secondly, also you have to determine what brewing methods will come after the roasting process. And that's why at Connect Coffee we have two profiles. We have the Romeo blend, which is the mild dark roast, and then we have the medium roast blend, which is the medium roast blend. So usually, and later when we do the brewing methods, you'll see distinct characteristics of each roasting method to favor the kind of brewing they're going to do afterwards. Yeah.
Now,
So-
even before we get to the brewing, one thing about the roasting
Yep.
that maybe I would like to really get to understand, and also our viewers to understand, is when you look at the coffee bean, do we just roast every coffee bean that comes, or is there a sourcing process that goes through to look at this is a perfect bean to be roasted, and also this is not a good bean for roasting? Just explain to us about the sourcing of the beans and the ones that are good for roasting.
Okay, so at Connect Coffee, and we are proud to say we specifically source grade AA coffee. So that's believed to be the best quality coffee available in Kenya. So when you have this kind of coffee, there are certain sizes that it should not go below. So we actually sort for that. And beyond that, because during farming there's definitely going to be unavoidable situations where the crop is damaged in different ways. Maybe it's disease, maybe it's breakages, depending on the stage of sourcing that the coffee was going through. So we sort all that at the source. Before we buy it, we actually get them to sort the coffee before they bring it to us. And once they bring it to us, we also source at site before we roast. Correct? And now we roast the coffee. After roasting the coffee, we sort it again. So you understand there's going to be a very meticulous approach to how we handle the coffee before we actually present it for the brewing methods. And this is very important if you want to keep up with the specialty coffee competition, because that's the standard if you're going to produce specialty coffee, and that's what we do at Connect. Yeah.
All right, very insightful. And now let's move and look at now a person buys coffee and they want to roast it at home.
Yeah.
How possible is this? Can someone just roast coffee at home, or do they need the roaster that you have here? And also, can someone just put on the gas and put maybe a sufuria on top, and then they say, I want to roast my coffee? So just let us know about this. Is there a specific machine, or you can use anything to roast?
I think both methods that you've given us an overview about are ways of roasting coffee actually, and traditionally coffee was roasted in the manner you've described, with the classic sufurias and a burner below it. Maybe it was a traditional 3 stones or a jiko. That's what they used to do. But then you'd realize that that is a very cumbersome way of doing it, and it's very slow because you're just interested in a cup of coffee. Imagine yourself in the rush, in the morning rush, you're just trying to get to work in the morning, and then you have to roast your coffee before you actually brew it. So that process would actually deter you from making your cup of coffee. So usually, yes, there are small scale roasters that someone can have. But then if you're not doing it as a hobby, we usually recommend you get professional roasters to do it for you. And these days they're very flexible. They can roast coffee to the profile that you prescribe. And due to information and technology developments these days, you can actually see a monitored report on how your coffee was roasted to see if it suits the profile that you've selected. So that's something I'd recommend for someone to get someone to do it for them. Yeah.
And for example, the roaster that you have here,
Right.
you've seen the size of the roaster that you have.
big, yeah.
So what importance does it have when it comes to now giving out the roasting, the best roasted coffee that is supposed to bring in the coffee, the Connect coffee taste?
I think the most important thing with roasting machines is capability and reliability. And if you look at this one, it's able to make up to 200 kilos in a day. So the capacity is there. So basically we are able to serve our 200 customers monthly from the same machine, and it can run 12 hours a day. That's what we make it go through. It can do that, and that's fulfilling the capacity and the needs of our customers. But more importantly is that it produces a consistent quality of coffee roast throughout. So that's basically it's machinery, you know. Like if you buy a good quality car, you'll have a good quality experience, you know. And this one is quite costly. I think the time it was purchased, it was almost in Kenya shillings above 50 million Kenya shillings. Yes. So it's a couple of cars. So yeah, so coffee roasting is a big investment, but then it's the most important investment if you're going to be a coffee roaster, especially in Kenya. Last time I checked, I think we have about 40 coffee roasting companies. It's definitely more at this point, and the coffee consumers are increasing. So this is something that would be a worthy investment for anyone.
Really? Okay, that's really nice. Now, let's now move over and speak about, now after the roasting, there's the packaging of the bean. And then after the packaging, I believe that's when it gets to the market. But let's leave that alone and
Okay.
just put a pause on that and look at the brewing process and the different types of brewing that we have in order to get the taste that you've mentioned, the Connect coffee taste.
Yeah.
So let's look at the brewing process. First of all, when you talk about brewing coffee, what do you exactly mean?
I think brewing coffee and the profession of a barista go hand in hand. And I'd like first, Kevin, to start with saying that the barista profession, in no particular order, is one of the most underappreciated professions, because these are specific skills of actually bringing out the best flavors that a coffee produce can have. You know, you can do all the hard work. You source good coffee, you process it well, you store it well, you roast it well, which is a very expensive process. And then when it comes to the brewing, it all goes off. So this is very important. So when it comes to brewing, you know, your grind size, the timing for the brewing, the equipment you use, what roast profile goes with what brewing, this is very important. Yes.
All right. And now the types of brewing that we have.
Yeah.
Just explain to us about them extensively so that at least we may understand what we are looking at when it comes to the types of brewing.
Okay, classically we have two types of coffee brewing. First of all, we have the espresso machine, which is I think better known with most people at the moment. So that's basically where you use the classic coffee making machines to extract an espresso, and from the espresso you can actually consume it as it is, the espresso, or you can use the espresso to come up with other beverages like the Americano, the lattes, and the cappuccinos as you know them. These are all espresso-based beverages. But besides that, we have pour-over method. Pour-over method is basically where you use water and then you regulate the time of contact between the water and the coffee, and most often than not, you use a filter paper to extract the coffee. Now, under pour-over method, you can have a Hario V60 method, you can have a Kalita. These are names after the origin. Like a Hario was invented in Japan, Kalita also comes from Japan, and then you have Chemex, originally American. Yep. And these are basically methods that came about from just people trying to get distinct taste from coffee while extracting the undesirable characteristics of the same. So besides that, we also have other methods like the mocha pot and the French press, very common. I think plunging, you've seen it in households. These are very common methods of making coffee, and they're easy, and I think they are things you can also find in supermarkets today. You go to a supermarket, you'll definitely find a French press, and you'll definitely find a mocha pot. These are things you can learn within a minute or so and learn how to make the best brew. And having said that, all these are preferential. Everybody likes their coffee the way they like it. So you'll find someone prefers to use a Chemex, someone prefers to use a French press, and someone prefers their coffee espresso based. Yeah.
And now, the types of brewing that we have,
Right.
and the taste that the end product that comes from the brew. Just explain to us about the one that you can get maybe a more bitter taste, and the one that you can get a more lighter, more a fruity taste from the brew. Which ones are these specifically when you look at them?
Well, generally speaking, all factors equal, you'd expect a stronger taste on coffee if it's plunged. So plunging, like a French press, is when you put coffee in a container and you pour water and you allow the coffee and the water to interact for a specified period of time, right? And then if you compare that to, say, a pour-over method like a Chemex, on a Chemex, the water runs through the filter paper. And this is a very limited period of time for the coffee to interact with the water. So that means not many characteristics of the coffee will be extracted. However, strength is relative. It can be strength in terms of bitterness, or maybe strength in terms of the nutty flavors that are characteristic to the coffee. So that's why I said ultimately it's preferential, but then most of these methods will have specific time guidelines that you have to use to extract the coffee that you desire. If you ask me what I like, I'd say perhaps I like a Chemex, because it's consistent with making the coffee clean due to just the thick nature of the filter paper. Yeah.
And when we look at Kenyans and their relationship to coffee,
Right.
what would you say is the most preferred type of brew that many Kenyans like?
I think Kenyans, we are a very trend-driven society. So globally, I think cappuccino is the most popular drink. Yeah, but if you work it backwards, a cappuccino is an espresso-based drink, and I think it's the artistic characteristics of a cappuccino that make it attractive. It's mostly no different from any other coffee, but I think, yeah, like you've asked, cappuccino should be the most popular coffee in Kenya. Yeah.
Okay, now, for example, when you're using the machine that you usually use to make coffee,
Right.
does the bean size affect the outcome?
Well, the bean size is important for the brewing method. Okay, so if you're going to use a Chemex, you'd prefer to have medium grind, right? Chemex is a pour over, right? If you're going to plunge the coffee, you'd prefer to have a coarse grind. Now, because in plunging, the coffee and the water will be in contact anyway, so the interaction will be extensive. So you don't want to have a fine grind, then the coffee will cake and there'll be no proper interaction between the coffee and the water. Now, if you're doing an espresso base, an espresso uses super fine grind, because remember, an espresso is when the coffee goes through pressurized water. When pressurized water goes through the coffee to extract a concentrated drink. So you want the coffee to be as compact as possible to just have that concentrated output. Mm-hmm. So grind size is determined by the kind of brew you want to come out with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for example, maybe let us say you just have the two types of coffee.
Right.
We've seen Juliet and Romeo.
Correct.
I think just explain to us about this and how they're connected to giving out different outcomes. So why is it called Romeo, and why is one called Juliet?
We have two types of roast profile, which is Romeo and Juliet. So basically, Romeo is our darker roast, and it's a double medium roast, which is leaning more to the dark side. We don't go completely to the dark roast. And then we have the medium roast, which is Juliet. And the difference between the two roasts is that Juliet is the brighter roast with more fruitiness to it and more undertones of lime in it. Okay? And then the darker roast, which is Romeo, is more nutty, more chocolatey, and then you'll find more undertones of grapefruit. So basically, in simple terms, you'd find Juliet to be slightly acidic, and then you'd find Romeo to be slightly more chocolatey and definitely less acidic than the Juliet blend. And these things are based on preference, but if you'd like to get the best output with our medium roast, you'd want to use a pour over method, because the water temperature is high, so the interaction between the water and the coffee will ensure the most amount of extraction to get those bright notes from the coffee you're trying to brew. But espresso, I think worldwide, goes best with the dark roast.
Yeah. All right, and also now for this Juliet and Romeo, we can still get the pour over that you've talked about, and the other methods of brewing. We can still get these qualities from them, from the different.
Definitely. Sometimes, personally, I like to do my Kalita with a dark roast. Basically, there are just days that you prefer to not have any amount of acidity in your coffee. You just want that rich, dark flavor, and I go for the Romeo for the pour over. Some people actually, Juliet espresso is very famous. It's very popular in our cafe here because it gives you those super bright notes in espresso fashion, in concentrated fashion, which is punchy. If you want something punchy, an instant kick, you try a Juliet espresso. That works. Yeah.
That's nice. Yes. And the one that you've mentioned, the machine.
Correct.
Is it advisable for someone to have it in the house or in the office? Of course, in the office, it can be very, very nice. But now in the house, how practical is it to have such a machine in the house?
I think if you're looking to make coffee from home and you're just getting into coffee, there are two things I'd advise you. If you're willing to make an investment, I would say go for an automatic coffee machine. Reason being is you would want to have a quality cup. There is no point for you to make your cup of coffee at home, yet you can't stand it, all right? But if you feel like you still cannot exist without your proper espresso in the morning, I'd still recommend you go to the cafe and get one, or, like I said, buy an automatic coffee machine that is reliable. However, if you're interested in other forms of making coffee, like say immersion or say pour over, these are very handy. You're making a cup or two in the morning a day. They're very affordable. I think they go for roughly 4,000 or 5,000 Kenya shillings a piece. You can buy an immersion equipment. It's very easy to learn, a French press. I think you go to any supermarket, Naivas, Carrefour, you will still get hold of one. You can get one. We sell ours here, very nice ones as well. You can use that to actually make your cup of coffee from home. All you have to do is, one, you can go to YouTube, check out the videos, try some recipes. You can also go to a specialty coffee outlet, get them to train you. At Connect, we have a barista academy. We can always train you on doing all those methods. But ultimately, you will learn through them as you grow, and you can always buy more equipment. So if you ask me if I want to make coffee at home and I'm just getting started, get an immersion method. Then maybe after a couple of months, get a pour over method. And if you have a bigger household, why not invest in an espresso machine? Because think about it, a cup of coffee costs around 400 shillings. You buy an espresso machine, you can make 10 to 20 cups of coffee for the entire household in a day. So ultimately, the cost ratio becomes similar to having an automatic machine at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Now let's move and look at the coffee culture in Kenya,
Right.
and where we are going. Are we seeing more people embrace coffee, or where are we in terms of embracing coffee?
I think, allow me to say, Kevin, part of the work I've been doing with Connect Coffee has been to sensitize the corporate environment in Kenya about coffee consumption, of course, by taking the coffee machines to different companies. We have over 40 companies that we are supplying coffee and coffee machines to within Nairobi only. And I can attest to the fact that it's rapidly growing. The coffee consumption in Nairobi is really growing, and the awareness, you go to social media these days, you get people manifesting their preferences, that I like my coffee in medium roast and pour over brew, and you see people saying they prefer their cappuccinos to be short, and they like long blacks and all that. This is more information getting through to people about coffee, and of course social media and basically the internet helps, because then curiosity is the biggest driver. So everybody wants to try out a different recipe of coffee that they've not previously tried. So it's growing. It's growing. Thanks to the youth, particularly, for bringing this culture to the country. And of course, as a coffee-producing country, it's long overdue that we consume coffee as a nation.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's move on and also talk about the type of coffee bean that is, or the type of coffee that is very popular in Kenya, and the one that maybe Connect Coffee you use, the type of coffee, Arabica or Robusta. I believe there are two types of coffee. So I would just like you to tell me which one is really popular, that the one that you use as Connect Coffee.
Basically, Kenya is known for Arabica coffee. Basically, we do produce some of the best coffee in the world. That's what we are known for. And it's 90% Arabica. So what we consume at Connect Coffee is Arabica. What we sell is Arabica. But even beyond that, we sell only AA. So that's the first grade of the Arabica coffee. So that's what we are known for. But coffee as it is, to say which coffee is popular in Kenya, is very difficult, because this is a protected market. Okay, the only available coffee that is affordable is Kenyan coffee, but it's good as it is. But now Kenyans are looking more towards the quality of the cup. Okay, yes, a lay person may not be able to describe whether a cup was fruity and whether it was aromatic, or whether it was flavorful, or whether it was astringent. So astringent is basically when the coffee is really earthy in tasting, and that's usually when there's a problem with the storage and processing stage of the coffee. See, but they can simply tell you if a coffee cup is good or bad. Okay, And that's quite telling, because they won't tell you where the problem was, but if they say they don't like it, okay, it means there was a problem with your storage or processing or sourcing of the coffee. So they have become particular. Okay, of course, more and more people are learning what causes these problems to be in the cup taste eventually. But us, it's our responsibility now as value chain stakeholders to make sure that we eliminate certain issues about coffee that make people have preference to other beverages like tea, etc. Because we want to push coffee as one of the main beverages in Kenya. So eliminating defects, sourcing good coffee, educating our customers about the coffee we produce, and serve at the shops is very important for us as a seller of beverages.
All right, we are taking a short break right here on Agri Talk. We'll be back with more. All right, we are back. This is Agri Talk, and today we are talking about coffee industry in Kenya. It is World International Coffee Day, and I have Michael here with me. All right, and we spoke about the youth and how they're using social media to just express what they like in coffee and the kinds of coffee they would like. So now, going forward, when we look at the coffee industry in our country, are we seeing it growing the way tea has? Tea is all over the place.
Yes.
So when you look at the coffee industry in Kenya as at now, and maybe in the next 1 year at a time like this next year, what are we looking at in terms of awareness, in terms of its popularity growing?
I think the biggest difference at the moment between coffee and tea is the cost for everyone, the cost for the farmer, the cost for the value addition, the cost for the retailer, the cost for the exporter, okay, and the bottlenecks everyone has to go through to actually realize their dream in whichever stage they are in the coffee value chain. Now, for us, for example, as resellers, the price at which we get green coffee is incomparable to, say, the price at which a tea seller gets it. So ultimately, a cup of coffee will cost 3 times a cup of standard tea in the country. So to actually convince or educate the average Kenyan the value for the cup of coffee that they're consuming is something that is going to take a joint effort, from the top, from the government, from the stakeholders, from the farmers, to actually know that this crop is lucrative for everyone involved in it, and coffee can grow because we already have the raw material in the country.
Yes.
We already have the best climate for growing coffee. We already have the highlands where we can actually participate in this. But then other stakeholders should also care about the welfare of other people in various parts of the value chain. So, for example, us as resellers, we should buy our coffee ethically and reasonably from the farmers, because ultimately it's their practices that will influence the ultimate product that we have. If they have good agricultural practices, then it's more likely we'll have good produce, and it's more likely we'll have better coffee, and people will enjoy it more and be happy to pay more for it. Yes, yeah. So it's interconnected, right?
Yeah.
You miss one thing, the whole thing gets a bit fragile. Yeah.
All right, and now finally, as we come to a close, going forward, a youth maybe who wants to join the value chain of coffee, wants to become a coffee farmer, and they are looking at it and saying, I feel like when I join this particular market or this particular venture, I'm not going to really get success because coffee farmers and the way they get into the market is maybe sketchy.
Yeah.
The market picks just the people they know, and then they leave other coffee farmers on the side.
Yeah.
What would you like to tell a person who is a coffee farmer and they don't see any hope going forward, or a person wants to start and they don't think the business is as lucrative as it's supposed to be?
My general advice, and especially for the youth. Whichever level of the coffee value chain you want to get involved in, whether it's farming, whether it's distributing, whether it's selling coffee equipment, whether it's being a coffee trainer, whether it's exporting coffee, is get yourself a barista course. Learn how to make coffee. Okay, this is the ultimate product that you're selling. Okay, if you're going to farm the coffee, you have to understand what your ultimate consumer is going to consume. Then from there, you can know the importance of all the stages that lead up to the ultimate cup, because 90% of coffee consumers, let's agree, know nothing about what the coffee goes through
Yes.
before it gets to their hand. But if it's good, they're willing to pay the amount the seller asks for. Okay, so it's very important for anyone interested in joining the coffee value chain to actually take a barista course. Usually they're quite affordable. It takes a month, maximum 2 months. Then you learn the different coffee brewing methods, and if you work it backwards, you'll then understand why it's important to get your roasting right. Okay, if you got your roasting right, why it's important to get your sorting right, why it's important to source your coffee right, why it's important to sort your coffee right, why it's important to have the right farming methods that will ultimately work its way up to the best cup. So if you're a farmer, you've tasted good coffee, you know, okay, if you don't prune your coffee beans, there's a taste you will not like about the cup of coffee. So you try to work your best ways to actually get to that ultimately good cup of coffee. Yes.
And there's something very interesting you've spoken about, like a good taste. When you talk about coffee and you talk about a good taste, you know, many of the coffees that we taste, most of them are bitter.
Yes.
So when we say a good taste,
Yes.
what do we really mean before even we close?
Well, it's an acquired taste. Okay, coffee, it's a taste that grows into you. Okay, you know your enemies at sight, but eventually you just can't live without it. That's the classic story for every coffee drinker, almost. You know, but a good taste, it's something that doesn't leave a negative mark on your brain. Okay, it hits you harshly. Okay, yeah. Imagine you taking your first sip of, let's say, a latte or a cappuccino. These are very gentle coffee drinks. And the next thing you do is spit it. Okay? However glorified that cup of coffee was, if you had to spit it after sipping it, that's leaning more on the
Yes.
bad side of coffee. But then as you get to learn the different manifestations of coffee brewing, then you'll understand bitter is relative. Okay? Bitter is relative, sour is relative, sweet is relative, fruity is relative. It's how all these flavors interact in your mouth when you consume this particular beverage. That is important about coffee. So it's a whole science that you get to learn as you experience and grow into it. Yeah.
All right. Finally, the International World Coffee Day celebration. What would you like to tell someone on just a lighter note, even the viewers? What would you like to tell them to celebrate on this particular day?
I think basically on International Coffee Day, is it? Yes, on International Coffee Day, I'd just like to tell the viewers to take a friend, take him out for a cup of coffee, okay? Order a drink you've never ordered, and just remember everything we've discussed today and see if you can pick out a single thing, then you'd have learned something from what we discussed today. Happy Coffee Day.
Hi, my name is Chris Cole, originally from South Korea, and I established this company in 2016. So now almost 6 years passed.
And now, as you've mentioned, 6 years now, what is it that you can say within the period of 6 years that you've gotten to learn from starting a coffee company in Kenya?
Actually, I have almost 14 years experience about the coffee industry. And 2015, I was in Kenya Coffee Research Foundation in Ruiru. I wanted to learn about coffee cultivation and coffee analysis. So I was in internship in Kenya Coffee Research Foundation during 1 year. There was no salaries and no accommodations. But I really enjoyed to learn about that. And after learning, I went to the field to training the farmers how to increase coffee yields and coffee quality. So I really enjoyed that activities. And after that, I decided to make my own company in Kenya. It's like Connect Coffee. So now we have 5 coffee shops and 1 coffee academy, and we export our green coffee to overseas now.
And now, talking about the 5 branches, I believe you already work with farmers in order to get their coffee bean.
Yes.
So, where do you usually source the bean from?
Mostly we're sourcing from central Kenya, near the mountain Kenya. There's highland. And also we work together with the cooperative in Embu. So Korean government support this project, and we really help them. It's one cooperative involved 700 small-scale farmers, and we changed their pulping machine and drying bed. It's many facilities to improve their quality. And also we try to link overseas buyer to buy direct coffee from the cooperative. As well, also we purchase their coffee above market price, and then you see we roast coffee, their coffee, and we selling their coffee to our customers with strong and actual stories.
And now, when you talk about roasting that you've mentioned, what is it that makes it different for a Connect coffee, the coffee from Connect Coffee? How is it different from the others that we know about?
Well, they're not much different. We are just following the global standard. And also, the most important raw materials, especially the roasted green bean, is most important. So that's why we're focusing to help the small-scale farmers. The farmer growing well and good quality of the green beans, we don't need to touch anything. It's just roast beans and nice packing to customers as well. So it means we're sourcing very high quality of the beans from cooperative. So we're monitoring without any insect damage or pulp nip or the immature beans. So we select very mature and good quality green beans from the farms and farm levels and milling levels. Right? Number one is sourcing the good quality green bean is most important. And number two, we have our own standard of the roasting profiles, so which it can make as better quality than other companies or countries.
All right, and you also mentioned about an academy for Connect Coffee.
Yes.
Tell us more about this academy.
Actually, when I came to the Kenya, there was no coffee culture. But our country, South Korea, has very strong coffee culture. It's now almost 150,000 coffee shops in small countries. Right? Can you imagine? So when I worked my former company, I also trained 5,000 the baristas and sourcing the green coffee from Africa or Middle America, South America, many places. I had the good experience. So I really want to teach my staff first, my staff in my place, because it was very difficult to training the Kenyan baristas and young people.
Yes.
Because they don't know about the coffee knowledge and skills and global standard. So I thought if I have money, I established the academy to train more people because of the unemployment in Kenya, and young Kenyan people want to learn about coffee. So we established our Coffee Academy in 2018. So since 2018, we almost 600 students graduate
Oh.
from our academy. So of course, when they get the job in Kenya, most the place they pay more because of our Connect Coffee certificate. So we are 60 hours curriculums. It's very tough from seed to cups. How they roast coffee and how they make good quality the cup of coffee, and also the customer service is most important. So the student is satisfied the curriculums and study, and also employee in Kenya, the most of them, the hotel, restaurant, the owners, they are humbly pay more extra to Connect Coffee graduate academy people. And also sometimes the young Kenyan the people who learn about the coffee from us, they went to America, Europe, or Middle East. So they got the part-time jobs or permanent jobs. The salary is very very good. It's $1,000, $2,000. So sometimes the student sent us the message or video. I got the job in America at Starbucks or some other the coffee place. So we use your certificate and skills, and now I'm happy to learn to get my school fees and the life money. So I really want to make more the curriculums, not only making coffee, about the farming, because farming is most important in Kenya as well. Because the international the consumption is demand very high, but production is declining all in the world. So even the Kenya, the product quantity is going down because of the development of the land, especially the Kiambu. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there's huge coffee plant or
Yes.
coffee farms.
Yes.
But now you cannot, very unique to find the coffee farms or trees in Kiambu towns. So
And also, even as we speak about this, you mentioned when you talk about the academy and you talk about the 600 students that you've had, and that is really a nice thing, especially when it comes to coffee, that maybe is not really popular. But now let's move forward and look at the period in which someone is out there. Maybe they're saying, how can I join this academy? What is the duration, and how beneficial will it be if I'm a Kenyan after learning the different styles of baristering and everything else? Just tell us about this.
actually, the barista course is 1 month course.
1 month.
Yes. So if you studying in our academy during 60 hours or 1 month, you can learn how to make coffee from seed to cups. But that is not enough. You need more experience. So that's why we do also internship in our the outlet. So when graduate student, they do 1 month or 3 months internship in our outlet. So they get more experience how to make coffee and how to communicate with the customers. So people get more experience, so they can get better positions and more salaries. And also, I want to try to make G2G business as like a Kenyan government to Middle East government, like Dubai. So Dubai want to the more people for service industries. So maybe the Kenyan government send 100 or 1,000 young Kenyan people to Middle East for their work. So the Arab Emirates or Middle East country, they monitoring and supervising working environment and life environment. So Kenyan young people went to Middle East during 2 years. They get at least $20,000 or $30,000. So when they get seed money, they come back. They come back to Kenya to make their own business, small business. So will the industry, so market, will going up
Okay.
with the young Kenyan people. So that is my plan.
All right. Now as we come to closing, nearing maybe the second last question. When we talk about roasting coffee, and we talk about the equipments that are used for roasting, can someone first of all roast the coffee bean at home by themselves, or do you need such a big equipment in order to roast coffee?
Yeah, now the coffee farmers or everybody interested about the value add, the product or service. So now, for example, the farmer selling the green beans to market, $6 to $10. But if they selling the roasted beans, the price will be $30 or $50.
Yes.
So it means they're focusing their interest, value added the product and the market. So means the roasting is very simple. It's like yamachoma. Do you like yamachoma?
Yes.
So you can use the pan fry with green beans. So you just use the fires with the pan fry. Maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you can see the transferring green bean to brown color of the roasted beans or dark color of the beans. So it's very simple. But if we want to make uniformities or the qualified of the roasted beans,
Yes.
yeah, you need more bigger machines or expensive the equipment
Okay.
for professionals.
All right, now lastly, as we finish, now when you look at Connect Coffee and you look at the Kenyan market when it comes to coffee, in the next maybe coming years, now that we have a new government, what would you think will be the trajectory now of the company, even in expansion? What do you see moving forward?
For Connect Coffee or coffee industry in Kenya?
For Connect Coffee, plus also the coffee industry in Kenya?
Yeah, actually we are focusing about the coffee farming because the world issue is climate change. So even Kenya, the raining season is very short and sometimes they delay. So the climate change affects the coffee farming as well. So of course the world globally the coffee consumption is going up, but production is very declining now. So we're focusing to try the training young coffee farmers in Kenya, because maybe in the future after 20 years or 30 years we can see just coffee on the books. So some other people drink cup of coffee and they are farming in Kenya, but now we cannot find the coffee in the world.
Yes.
Because of the climate change and production is going declining. So we are focusing to training young coffee farmers because the coffee is gold money. So now the young Kenyan people is very smart and they can use the smartphones and they're watching the YouTube, all things. So it's very easy to get the global informations and know how to the growing coffee wells, and also they can make money from the coffee. So actually we want to expand our project in Embu to other counties to training young coffee farmers. And then also we want to support their facilities and technique the support as well. So if they following us, our guidelines, they can make good quality coffee and we can sell the good quality coffee to overseas clients and local domestic clients as well. So we just make win-win situation between coffee farmers and Connect Coffee.
All right. And now, it's International Coffee Day. What message would you like to give people on the International Coffee Day? What would you like to encourage them to do? Embrace coffee more, or what would you like? Just on a light note.
The message is very simple. Drink more coffee and make better life for coffee farmers.